Oh, okay, looks like it's 3 p.m. on my clock. We'll get started here. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the fourth webinar in our series of virtual product tours for Aptean's LINKFRESH ERP solution. Now, over the last several sessions, we've shown you some core LINKFRESH areas, including traceability, forecasting and planning, and mobile solutions. Now, today's session, as you can see on the screen, is all about consignment management. Now, as usual, this session is going to be recorded, and all your microphones will be muted as an FYI. But that being said, questions can be asked in real time through the chat window there on the interface. Okay, a quick overview of the agenda for today. We'll keep it short and sweet before we get into the system. We'll start with a high-level introduction of who Aptean is and who LINKFRESH ERP is. And then we'll talk a little bit about the LINKFRESH platform itself and how it couples growers accounting and track and trace intelligence to provide that full consignment management and profitability reporting. And then, of course, we'll get into the system itself, and we'll show you how some of these workflows and capabilities work in action through the Consignment Engine. So with that, a couple of introductions. My name is Peter Carrero. I am the account manager for LINKFRESH ERP, and I am based here in the United Kingdom. Now, I'm joined by my good friend and colleague, James Rogers, who's our lead solutions consultant, and he is our technical expert, if you will. And he'll be showing us the system firsthand and guiding us through an overview of the LINKFRESH capabilities, again, specifically around consignment management. So with that, as usual, we'll start with a high-level overview of who Aptean is. Now, I think many of you are likely aware that Aptean and LINKFRESH ERP joined forces back in 2019. And this is all, well, along with a few other Microsoft Dynamics-based platforms. And again, all with the vision to become that #1 technology provider to the food industry and specifically within fresh. Now, our core mission at the highest level of Aptean is all about moving businesses like yours forward through technology and through digitalization. And we do that by developing purpose-built modern solutions. Now, within the food industry, all of our Microsoft Dynamics platforms are designed specifically for their corresponding subverticals. So within fresh produce, obviously, LINKFRESH ERP is our flagship. This basically means that we're getting the bulk of investment when it comes to things like research and development and product development. Now, we are indeed a global technology company. We are headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, back in the States, but our footprint spans all over the world. So we have central offices here in the UK, in the US, of course, Netherlands, and throughout EMEA. And our international reach does span all the way to farms down in South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, all over the Americas again, and throughout EMEA as well. And as a whole, the Aptean Food Group works with just over 900 food and beverage customers worldwide. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about the platform. I think this graphic here does a pretty good job of depicting the LINKFRESH platform and where it sits within the Aptean world and within the Microsoft Dynamics world. So that that couple between Aptean and Dynamics, along with fresh produce specialization and expertise, gives us that future-proof system that is LINKFRESH. Again, designed for fresh. So by leveraging the Microsoft platform, our full suite of ERP solutions, which you'll see listed on the left there, have deeper functionality, ties with business intelligence and reporting, and of course the scalability through extensions and connectors that our customers leverage to grow. Now, as part of the Aptean family of solutions, LINKFRESH ERP offers additional value and IP beyond the core ERP itself. And we do that with standard integrations to supply chain systems, our plant management systems, and our compliance tools. So here you'll see just a few examples, some samplings of those value-added modules that I mentioned. So for some of you with, let's say, heavier processing or more complex manufacturing that requires a deeper level of visibility at the shop floor level, we can simply connect Aptean Factory MES, which is our our primary OEE and MES system. At the same time, if you have those highly automated pack houses or factories, you're going to have extensive engineering requirements. Again, when you get to that level, it's all about scalability. We simply plug in our API Pro asset management tool. And then, of course, with Paragon TMS, which is our route optimization and a transport management system, for you with a large fleet of vehicles, for example, we can expand LINKFRESH's logistics capabilities all the way to the road. And that list goes on. So e-commerce, complaints management, new product development, we have the solutions there. Okay, so let's get into the topic for today, which is all about consignment management. Now, in the world of fresh produce, where prices are obviously driven, primarily at the retailer level, the visibility and that true understanding of your costs at every single point in the supply chain are critical to gauging profitability and making the best business decisions based on that. So accuracy in tracking and tracing those costs is especially key as supply chains become more complex. And gaining that visibility allows you to make the most informed decisions and allows you to use your resources efficiently. Now, from the moment a purchase order is raised, and James is going to show you this in the system itself shortly, LINKFRESH traces individual consignments on multiple levels throughout that process. So, things like what came in, how was it processed, whether it's passed through or whether that lot split, if you're grading, if you washed or if you're mixing, etc. LINKFRESH is going to capture the associated cost at every single one of those stages and at every value add process, and ties it back to the original consignment or a pool of consignments if you're grouping them for whatever reason. How was it sold? So, as an example, if the initial consignment was used for several different final products, LINKFRESH knows which proportions and more importantly, it knows which costs are associated with each individual sale. And applies them back to the consignment accordingly. And so, as you can imagine, from that costings data and that real-time intelligence captured within LINKFRESH, we're also able to provide that visibility and profitability reporting, even at the most granular of levels. So, consignment profitability reporting, the Consignment Engine itself allows customers to track and analyze budgeted versus forecasted versus actual costs. And it provides the visibility or the view, let's say, by purchase SKU, by vendor, by finished goods SKU, by customer per lot, and that goes on. So again, getting very granular with the level of insight and data that you can get. Now, naturally, the LINKFRESH Consignment Engine certainly simplifies grower returns and streamlines and automates a lot of the self-billing processes with real-time data. But I think the most impactful value that most of our customers see is really an ability to make just strategic and profitable business decisions based on that data. So it goes beyond just the administrative aspect of running consignments, of managing consignments. It's all about the insight. So if you say you're a grower or a packer, for example, if you can picture having the business intelligence to know that, just a random example here, that product A is only most profitable if the raw materials are purchased from supplier X and sold to customer Y. And then, we can go deeper within LINKFRESH and give you that further insight to also identify that, with that scenario or with that selling strategy, it's only going to be most profitable if the yield of the crop was above, X percent. And then if it falls below X percent, then you can also determine, let's say in that particular scenario, that the most profitable route to market is going to be to sell to customer Z. So just an example of some of the, some of the insight that you can get, and also some of the rules that you can create within the system itself to make sure that the system's allocating product and orders accordingly. All right, so with that, I'm going to pass it over to James, and we're going to get into the system itself and take a look at some of this in action. James, if you are ready.
Yes, thanks, Pete. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Hi, and thank you again, Pete. So here we go with my part of session number 4 in this series of tours around LINKFRESH. So today, as you can see, I'm going to go through a worked example of the Consignment Engine. I want to explain the concepts and hopefully get across to you how unique this is to the target industry of LINKFRESH. You can see on screen the key points I want to get across, so let's talk them down. Now, before I do that, the majority of my experience has actually been in traditional food manufacturing, so bakeries, ingredient companies, flavouring companies, supporting that sort of business. And in my experience in that world, most of those factories, they pay their suppliers an agreed price for what has been delivered. Now, the concept that we're going to see in LINKFRESH, I hopefully want to get across how that can be very different to that model, and I get to repeat, quite unique to the target in LINKFRESH's target industry. The commercial relationship between the LINKFRESH customer and the grower, well, that might be more complex than a simple fixed term contract or spot price. The payments might be based more around the activity that you would see in the pack house than you would the grower. So the grower, they've got their own complications and expenses. They've got boom sprayers, they've got harvesters, they've got large teams in the field to manage. So the grower leaves the grading, the packing and the selling to the pack house, the LINKFRESH customer. And hopefully what we'll see today is how you can calculate what the pack house pays the grower based on the internal measurements that you would typically capture and control by the LINKFRESH ERP. The worked example I'm going to use, as you can see, is the grading process of mandarins. I'm going to take raw mandarins. I'm going to base this worked example around grading, and I'm going to grade it into large and medium produce, and I'm going to pay the grower different rates for the different sizes. So I'm going to raise and receive a ton of raw produce at a notional £1 a kilo. So we need to update our assets with a notional value to begin with. I'm then going to grade out 400 kilos at 150, 600 kilos at 50p, meaning I should be paying my grower £900. And then I'm going to start to sell you the goods and see how you can visualize how much of a consignment has been traded quite easily and quite simply in LINKFRESH. I've also got a budgeted estimate in for £500 of inbound transport, and I'm going to talk you through that and where that's come from, where that estimate has come from. And then I'm going to post an invoice and finish off by posting an invoice, an actual invoice for the transport of £600, just to show you how you will be able to see the actuals versus the estimates. So let's get started. Flip over here. Now, I've got an awful lot of software to get through today, so I'm going to take this quite slowly, I hope, and I will be repeating certain things that you will have seen on previous sessions, but expanding on them very much. So I want to start by looking at the vendor card. And the vendor that I've been using through these tours has been Railway Farms. So if I just call up Railway Farms and just show you 3 of the fields that I'm going to be working with today, we can see down in on the vendor card LINKFRESH 1 tab, we've got a trading basis, we've got a pricing type, and we've got allow early consignment payback. So let's just talk you through those. Now, if I expand the trading basis, this is the default for this vendor. We can see 5 different options there. I'm going to be basing it around grade out, so I'm going to pay based on what I grade out, but it could be my arrangement with this grower is perhaps based on what we pack out in terms of finished product. It could be that our arrangement is to pay the grower perhaps a commission on what we've sold to the retailers and the wholesalers. Perhaps it's based around that more traditional, straight purchase price. And you can see the flexibility that you can get in as the default trading basis for a vendor or grower. Running alongside that is the pricing type. I've got this set to output, so I'm working with grading, and I want to base my grading measurement on the output of that grading production order. And then this toggle button that I've got switched on, am I allowed to pay my grower early? So, or do I need to wait for all of my produce to have been traded 100%. So if you perhaps have apples that would maybe have a bit longer shelf life, they may last a few weeks, and you want to pay your vendor, your grower, a little bit early, you can toggle this button on. That would enable you, when you do your grower return, when you span through your consignments, calculating what to pay, you can include consignments for which you have not fully sold the produce. So that toggle button there. If I scroll up to the top and I go to navigate and purchases and prices, so we're looking at Railway Farms, and what we can see here is my large produce, my product 50L, which is my large produce. I'm going to pay my grower £1.50 for those, and my mediums 50p. So hopefully what that's getting across is the fact that you can have different agreed values for different produce, perhaps for where you have a common item that you buy from multiple vendors. You can arrange and agree different prices for different growers or vendors and have starting dates, ending dates, that sort of thing. So this allows you to build up rules for when the grower return calculates what you need to pay. So we've got vendor, we've got trading basis, and we've got prices on the vendor card. Okay. Next thing I want to do is show you how the consignment record itself gets generated. So I'm going to go in to create myself a new purchase order. Create myself a new purchase order. System's a little slow, I do apologize. And as we saw, I'm going to be purchasing from Railway Farms. I'm going to be booking into Dartford. I'm going to be purchasing an item. It's raw material 50, which is my loose mandarins. I'm going to book 1,000 in. I'm going to specify a £1 a kilo because fundamentally this is going to generate a journal on your raw material assets. So I'm going to have a notional £1 per kilo at this point. If I scroll down here, we can see how those fields, the trading basis field has been inherited from the vendor master. And if I scroll to the right on this grid, you'll notice the column headed consignment number, which is currently blank. Now we've seen on previous product tours how when I release this purchase order, it will generate me a warehouse receipt. So it's going to do that. But if I just draw your attention to the consignment number, and when I click release, a warehouse receipt has been created. And if I scroll back through this grid to this column, we can see consignment number 90 has been created by that action of releasing the purchase order. So it's created two things: the warehouse receipt to book against and the consignment record to start tracking against automatically. And there's different controls that you can specify as to what level does this consignment number get created for. Is it all the products on a purchase order? Is it a line on a purchase order? That sort of thing. So, so we're looking at consignment number 90. And if we go off and take a little look at that record in a bit more detail. So I'm going to go to look at my consignment number 90. So go to consignment list. Sort that descending. So here's my consignment 90. The trading basis just there. It's sat at 0% traded right now. So if I open up that consignment card, we can see the details. They expected 1,000 at £1,000. We can see the grayed out trading basis again. I could at this point change it if I wanted to. And if I go to open consignment and I go to consignment costs, we can see that currently we have £1,000 expected on raw materials. We have here an estimate or a budget of £500 for a cost element for haulage. So the cost elements enable us to build up and analyze and monitor costs by a code. So it could be haulage costs, it could be commission fees to agents, it could be duty that you may pay at for bringing in produce from outside, it could be demurrage that you pay at the port. Sorry. So you can have different cost elements and build your own cost elements to be able to track against. And a bit later on, I'm going to show you how the system arrived at this estimate of £500 towards the end of the webinar. If I scroll down, we can see a table that says income currently sat at 0. So it's generated me the consignment, and just to give you an indication of what's happened at this point. So now my next step is to book in my pallets of stock. So I'm going to go to warehouse receipts to do that. Go into to book my pallet of loose mandarins into stock. So here's my purchase order number 90, and we've seen this before. Potentially you would be doing this through the mobile device, as we saw in one of the earlier sessions. But I'm going to go through, auto create myself one pallet, click OK. It's pallet number 36. I'm not going to bother with labels and whatnot today. So I should now be able to post my receipt to book the pallet into stock. It's created me a put away, and the warehouse receipt is dropped off the list. I'm going to go off to the warehouse put away to put this pallet away. It's telling me to take it to storage. I'm actually going to cross dock it directly into the production area. I'm going to drop it into my grading bin, and I'm going to register this put away. So I've raised my purchase order, I've receipted in my pallets, and I have moved those pallets to the grading area. The next thing I want to do is raise a grading order. So an instruction, as we've seen previously, an instruction to grade this ton of mandarins, and I'm going to generate myself a new production order. It's the grading job, so I'm going to base it around a family, and we've explained that previously. The source of the family is the mandarin family. It's going to be the 1,000 kilos that I've received in, and if I refresh the production order, you'll recall from previous sessions how we can hold a family structure together with grading profiles and grading profile assignments. So it's expecting me to grade out 400, 600. You'll also recall from previous sessions how I need to push this release production order down onto my touchscreen typically via the factory schedule view. So if I come in here and I can see my production order here is 2, it is unplanned at the moment. So I go to process and schedule production and OK. And if I click on here, we should see job number 16, which is now planned, not started, which means I'm able to start work on the touchscreen to record the activity of this job. And again, the reason I'm repeating this, we've seen it before, but the reason I'm repeating this is the consignment is a trading basis of grade outs. You are basing your payments, your grower return and your purchase invoice around the grading activity, and it's real-time data that comes from the operational processes that are logged and controlled through LINKFRESH, which will fundamentally calculate in a minute or two as to how much I need to pay that grower. So I'm going to start work on this job. Confirm the labor. and then I'm going to consume my pallet number 36 that we booked in. And I'm going to output what the results and record the results of the grading activity. So I generate myself a new lot number and a new pallet ID for booking into. So I've got pallet ID 37 and 38. Now, to keep the numbers simple, I'm going to go bang on. I'm going to grade out exactly 400 kilos of the large mandarins. Click output to book that into stock. That performs the output journal. Record the 600 kilos of medium produce and output that. So we've consumed, we've outputted. I want to record on the factory floor, on the pack house floor, the fact that I've now finished with this job. Confirm the labour. That's now finished. I've finished performing the grading activity. If you recall, as we go back here, I can now see it. Click on this too to see that the operational status is now complete. As a back office planner, I can then go in and check the bookings that we've seen on the factory floor. The finished quantity there is 400 and 600. So I'm happy with those bookings. I can change the status to finished, and all is good. Those 1,000 kilos have now come in and have now been graded into the 400 and 600. Nearly there. Next thing I want to do is start to sell some of that produce. So if we think of the whole buy, grade, pack, sell, or buy, grade, sell, I've done the buying, I've received the purchase order in, I've graded it. I now want to go through and start to sell some of the produce. So I'm going to raise a sales order. Apologies for the speed of the system. So I'm going to raise myself a sales order for Arthur David. In this instance, I'm going to sell them the large produce that I've just graded out. It's going to be coming out of Dartford. I'm going to sell them the 400 kilos that we produced. I think I'm oh, come on. Okay, I'm going to sell them at £2. So £2 at 400. £2 a kilo, 400 kilos, £800. I want to release the sales order to create myself a warehouse shipment, which I'm going to navigate to that warehouse shipment to pick and ship the pallets of large produce that I graded out. So I'll go to LINKFRESH pallet selector. In theory, I should only have the one pallet to be able to select from. Which indeed was pallet number 37. So I click OK. And I should be able to post the shipment. I'm going to ship and invoice the goods. And the invoice should have been generated. So I've received the goods in and I've now sold 400 kilos of the consignment. So if I go back to my list of consignments, and I'm working with consignment number 90. And I've been working with consignment number 90, which we can now see is 40% traded. So if I click on the consignment record and open up the consignment record, and if I go to the consignment costs tab, and then previously when we looked at the income pane, we can now it was shown at 0 when it first opened. It's now shown at £800. So a codified theory, if I wanted to click on that to see what is making up the £800, if I scroll to the right, we should see sales order number 68. It's making up that £800. So hopefully what I'm trying to get across to you there is we are tracking sales and trading against this consignment record. And you will be able to see what it's cost you. We're going to generate a grower return in a second. And fundamentally what you've made from it. And then we will be able to track both estimated and actual additional costs that make up that whole landed cost for the consignment. So next place to go is a grower return. So I've traded 40% of it. If you recall back to the vendor card, I had the allow early payback toggle switched on. So that should enable me to pay the grower for this consignment. So I'm in grower return list. I'm going to create myself a new grower return. Fundamentally, the way I look at a grower return, it is assembling the data, spanning through the consignments, looking to identify what it is you should be paying your grower. And then when I finalize and post this grower return, it will generate me a purchase invoice to go through to AP to make the payment. So that's what this is trying to do. I'm working with railway farms. So I select and start to generate myself a grower return 43 for railway farms. I should then be able to go to actions, functions, and get consignment data. A window pops open to be able to start that work of spanning through those consignments. The toggle button was switched on. So this first field is saying, please, when you do your span through consignments, as it stands, only include traded consignments that have hit 100%. Well, I can change that because I'm allowed to pay back early. I can change that back to 0. So it should enable me to pick up the consignment that we're working with. I click on the ellipse button to search my list of consignments. Go descending. And indeed, we can see our consignment number 90, which is a grayed out. I click OK to include this consignment and press OK. And you can see that one consignment record has been added to the grower return. Now, I did see this flaw the other day where I can't quite see this grid, but I should be able to go to more options and go to consignment and to the payback card. And what you will see on the payback card is our £900 that we've been aiming for. So it's gone through, it's calculated what the actual grading was, and it's come up with this sum of £900 that you need to pay the grower. We can see here that so far we've produced £800 worth of sales, which we can also see down here. And if I go to line and I go to production, we should be able to see how that £900 has come about. So we can see two different grades, large and medium, 400 and 600. We can see that £1.50 that we saw way back when we looked at that vendor card. So therefore we can see the 600 plus 300, which is making up our £900 payment that we need to pay the grower. So I close that and I can close that. I can go to actions and functions and I can finalize the return. Everything's on there that I want to pay. If I wanted to make any changes, I could have done. I should have done that before and showed you, but when the £900 came up, I could have made adjustments there at that point. I could have said, well, I'm not going to pay them 900, I'm going to pay them 600, or I'm going to pay them 1,000. I could have made last minute changes if I wanted to. I finalized the return. I should now be able to post my grower return. I could have chosen finalize and post at this point and mopped these last two steps into one. But if I click post and say yes, it should generate me a purchase invoice number 107. And the grower return is now posted. If I go away and look at the list of purchase invoices that I've got on the system, we should see purchase invoice number 107. If I click on there, we should see here we've got consignment number 1290, consignment number 90 that we've been working for, grow return number 43. So, this will get passed through to accounts payable to make the payment. It may well be supported with a report. This is only a very simple worked example, but you may well supplement this with a report which gives you a true breakdown of the measurements that LINKFRESH has taken to come up with that £900 that you're going to pay. You would pass that through to AP. You would send the document and the report to the grower to say, this isn't, you're getting £900. We're going to pay you £900, and this is what it's based on. So there we go. That goes through to the purchase invoice. Now, the last thing I want to show you is how do we come around and arrive at that £500 for that haulage, and it's built around this concept that we've added of a cost element. So if I go into my cost element list, all configurable, you can set up the cost elements that apply to your business. I've been working with haulage, so if I click on the haulage cost element, we can see a bit more detail about that, whether you're going to recharge it back to the grower, different things, whether any budget rules exist. So if I go to cost element and my budget rates, we should be able to see one row in here. If I scroll this grid to the right, you can see that lump sum of £500. Now, this is a very simple example. What I'm saying here is that for all consignments, for any vendor, for any item into Dartford, I'm going to apply an estimated haulage cost of £500. Now, in reality, that's going to be a little bit more complex than that. It could be that you say for certain vendors from certain countries, then we have a different calculation for those estimates. It could be that we say for different produce types from different countries of origins of different sizes and whatnot, or even down to individual items, that we have different estimates of what those costs could be. And then if I scroll to the right and show you this calculation method, what are we measuring when we perform that calculation of the estimated budget cost? Well, I'm putting lump sum on this, but it could be that I base it on the quantity on the purchase order, or extend that quantity by the weight if I'm buying pack sizes, number of pallets perhaps, that calculates through based on the footprint on a vehicle, that sort of thing. So we can build this, or you guys can build this table up to indicate to the system what it is that we're measuring, how are we measuring those estimates, and then we should, last step to show you today is the actuals when the invoice comes in from, in this case, the haulier. So if I go back to my consignment, a couple of minutes now and I'll be finished. Well, I go back to my list of consignments, and you can do this a couple of ways. I'm going to, in a second, be posting a purchase invoice. So the invoice has come in from the haulier for the transport. I could go through directly through the purchase invoice screen, or I could come via the consignment card. I'm just going to show you via the consignment card. So I can go to actions, I can go to functions, and I can go to create an invoice just here with this option. It pops open a consignment charge wizard. I can specify what vendor that I'm receiving the invoice from, and this is effectively a wizard, a cut down mechanism of that purchase invoice form that you would see in LINKFRESH. So it could be invoice number 4,000. It's been received in today. I want to specify this against a particular charge. I drop that down. We can see that list of those list of cost elements. We're working with haulage. Specify haulage. The unit cost is £600, and I want to create the purchase document. The haulage could be for perhaps more than just this one consignment. It could be that the hauliers collected from a number of different growers, a number of different vendors. So I do need to go through this process of allocating and apportioning the cost of this haulage. I'm just going to say it's just going to be against the whole £600 is going to be against this purchase receipt. So I can click there and I can click close, and what that should do is generate me a purchase invoice number 108 for the £600. So that wizard has gone through that process of generating the purchase invoice, and it should have allocated it against the consignment. So finally, last thing, if we go to open consignment and consignment costs, and okay, it didn't show up. Apologies for that. I've got all the way through these, and right, okay. It should have been there. I must have clicked on something wrong. I do apologise. I was expecting. I put in a purchase invoice for haulage. I was expecting to see a 600 in that cell there, which was the cost amount actual. That you would then build up the actual costs as I've just done. But clearly, I've missed a step somewhere. So I do apologise. So hopefully that was of interest. I've tried to show you how LINKFRESH will track activity within the pack house, how you can track the consignment, which will track the costs against the consignment, track the trade against the consignment, so you can track the profits for that consignment, and then generate the grower return to calculate and make the payment to the grower. So I'm going to finish there, and if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat, else I will pass it back to Pete to finish off.
Thank you, James. Great job as usual, and thank you everybody. We received quite a number of questions here, more than usual, which we appreciate. Good level of engagement. We're going to do things a little bit differently. What we'll do is we'll follow up and respond to these questions one-on-one. So keep an eye out for the email. In the meantime, our email addresses are there on the screen. Again, thank you very much for your time. Any questions that come up after, please do send them our way. James and I are always available for a virtual meeting to discuss more. So with that, have a good day. Thank you.